Hi, welcome back to Decluttering with Heather. If you're new here, then welcome. Today we are going to discuss our fantasy self. So, what is a fantasy self? Our fantasy self is who we wish we could be, who we think we should be in relation to who we really are. It's the ideal of how you want people to perceive you that isn't the real you. It's also the things that we do or the things that we buy to try to be more impressive to other people, to seem to be more accomplished than what we really are. The fantasy self could be connected to the things that we've bought or did in the past that no longer have a place in our current season of life. The fantasy self could also be connected to the person that we secretly wish to be in the future, and the things that we're currently buying or doing right now in this season of life. So, in my own experience, my fantasy self is in the past, the person who used to wake up every day and do her hair and makeup and just really care about the opinion of the outside world. The me that used to save my clothes from when I was smaller because I thought one day I would get back in them. So the things I've just shared and most of the things connected to that fantasy self from the past, I've had to let go of because that in this season of life, not what I'm concerned with anymore. I'm concerned with getting out of bed. I'm concerned with my house being easy to clean. I'm concerned with peace of mind and quiet time. So, in decluttering the things linked to the past, it brings peace of mind to not have to beat myself up every time I see those clothes that in reality, even if I lost a bunch more weight, I would not be able to fit into those clothes the same way that I used to because, as you age, your body changes in shape. And so the way that those used to fit, they wouldn't fit that way anymore. And then I would just be sadly disappointed if I ever did fit in them. And I've wrapped my mind around that, so I was able to let those clothes go. And if I get down to that size again, then I'll buy new clothes that will actually fit now. And as far as my hair and my makeup, it's a big deal to have it out of a ponytail. I do wear makeup every once in a blue moon, but I've got to be feeling really good for that to happen. And so, you guys were there for my desk declutter and how it's not that I wear the makeup, it's just I'm so used to it being there that I got clutter blindness to it. And so it was hard to let it go just because I was used to it being there. But it feels better to have let it go. So now when I look at it, I'm not thinking, well, I should be wearing this makeup when I already know I'm not going to wear that makeup. And I did get rid of the browns that were in that desk and just kept the grays. Because I already know that when I do wear makeup, it's only grays that I wear, grays, whites, and blacks. So there was no reason to keep the browns, even though I wanted to because I always have. So really what I've learned about the fantasy self, even if it's something you're currently working on, if you have hobbies that you're working on, like sewing or scrapbooking, or knitting or crocheting, stamping, calligraphy, like whatever it is, you need to give yourself a limit, like 6 months to a year, and see if that hobby really does fit into your life. And if it doesn't, then don't let that stuff turn into clutter. Just go ahead and sell it or whatever. Just get it out of your space if you already know that that's not going to fit in your life. The last thing we want to do is let a fantasy self clutter our house. And that's not to mention the money, the time, the guilt that we've invested in these things that are constantly going to be saying, look, you brought me in and now you're just going to push me aside. So every time you see that stuff, it's going to be speaking negatively to you. You don't need that. So as soon as you decide something's not for you, then take measures to move it out of your house and don't let it become clutter. It's very important. But I do want to say this, if you're a person that deals with depression, then you may want to give yourself a couple of years to cycle through it and see if you come back to this hobby instead of just cleaning it out right away. Because when depression hits, you don't care about anything anymore. And you have no motivation and no willpower. And your attitude changes completely about your things anyway. So you would need to give yourself time to cycle through that and see if at the end when you come through, if you truly aren't interested or if it was just the depression talking. So I really do want to talk about your fantasy self and clothing. We see all the ads for clothing on, Facebook, Instagram, catalogs, magazines, emails, sales racks, all that. And we buy them and they don't fit us like the model that was wearing them, who, by the way, gets paid a lot of money to sell you these things. But if you're an average human, you're probably a little bit frumpy and have some love handles, not like that model. And if you don't now, then you probably will have one of these days. Vanity is a cruel, cruel thing. So if you're hanging on to fantasy self clothing, things that are too tight or too loose, that fit weird, things that have weird sleeves or hemlines that are 5 years old or older, when you look at them hanging in your closet, what are they saying to you? Really, what are these pieces of clothing saying to you? If you've gained weight, do they say, hey, fatty, too bad you can't wear me. Look at me hanging here. Hi. You should lose some weight so you can wear me again, even though we both know you won't. Go ahead and leave me hanging in here so I can make you feel bad about yourself all over again tomorrow. No worries, I've done it for years now. Or is there clothing in there that you've spent a lot of money on that you didn't get returned in time? Or you found out that it was really uncomfortable, so now it's just hanging in there. Just hanging out in your closet, mocking you every day because you wasted money on it. Every time you see it, it says, just look at all the money you wasted. Look at how irresponsible you are. Just leave me hanging in here and I'll remind you again tomorrow. You never know. You may want to try me on again in the future so I can discourage you all over again. My point being, we must get these things out of our house. They're not good for our mental health. We must get them out of the house. We need freedom and peace of mind from all these things that speak so negatively to us. In our closets, there should only be things that we currently love and wear. Also, another thing to consider is with these things in our closets, it's making the laundry process harder on ourselves. So if you just can't let these things go, then at least move them out of your closet where they're not screaming negative stuff at you every day. But also put them somewhere where they're not just cluttering up your space. Try labeling them for declutter in 6 months and put the date on there. And if you don't go back to get them in that 6 months, if you've not lost the weight, if things haven't changed, then go ahead and declutter them because they literally are just clutter. So sell them, take them to a donation center, throw them away, whatever it is that you do with the things that you don't want anymore. Just get them out of your house. Don't let these things bully you. It's not worth it. It's just clothing. And a good way to determine what's clutter in your closet is to ask yourself, if I were at the store right now and this was in front of me, would I buy it again? A lot of times we buy stuff that feed into this desire of our fantasy self, but we just end up not wearing the clothing or using the items that we bought, and they just end up in a closet or in a drawer or somewhere tucked away, and they end up cluttering our homes and our minds. Even if you're not aware of it, everything you own has something to say to you. So pay attention when you come across things, what they're saying to you. And why do we feel that our authentic self isn't good enough? I would say the answer to that is mostly consumerism. They have to make you feel bad about yourself or give you a way to improve yourself in order to sell their product. And they already know when they're selling you things that most of the time the end result for you is going to be you're going to feel bad about yourself. So if you've had these things, whatever they are, whatever your fantasy self is, if you've had these things laying around for 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, most of your life, try to get them out of your house, out of your mind, out of your life, out of your thoughts, because letting them go can really be relieving and refreshing and help you find your authentic self, who you should be anyway. And hopefully you will learn to love who you are for who you are. This doesn't just apply to clothing. It can literally be anything that you're holding on to because you want somebody to think that you're better than you are or that you're different than you are. So I wish you all peace of mind and the ability to realize what's really going on with these things. We've been played. We've been played by the stores, by advertisers. And the sad thing is that we fell for it, but that's okay because we didn't know any better. We know better now. When we know better, we do better. So that's all for today's video on the fantasy self. I hope you guys will leave me a comment about some of the things that you have for your fantasy self that you're really considering letting go of. Thanks for watching, you guys. Be sure to subscribe.